Thank you very much. Good morning and welcome to our September webinar here for our 2024 webinar series for the New York Association on Independent Living, NYAIL, or as we so often say, NYAIL. I am Blaise Bryant, Communications Specialist for the association, and it's great to have you here with us at a different time because we have disability advocacy to do at 1 o'clock at the Most Integrated Setting Coordinating Council meeting. So this works out that we're doing it as early as we are. A couple of quick housekeeping things. Number one, the panelists, or I should say the chat is disabled for attendees. That is a screen reader accommodation. So if you need anything, put it in the Q&A box and we will help you out. Number two, the webinar is recorded and these slides will be made available along with the recording. I'll have that to you later on in the week because I'm likely not going to be able to get it out to you until probably Friday. Number three, and this is a new thing, as our presenters take questions, you may, and there are a couple of interactive activities here, and we will tell you when you can. If you raise your hand, that means you want to unmute and say something. So we will gladly give you that space. And again, we'll remind you when that time comes. So with all the housekeeping out of the way, I'm going to introduce our presenters. They are Cynthia Stewart, who is with the Office of New Americans. Cynthia, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Blaise. Hello, everyone. Cynthia Stewart here. I am the Senior Program Manager for the Ramirez June Initiative at the New York State Office for New Americans, and I'll share a quick visual description. I am a white woman in my 30s with light brown hair that's pulled back, and I'm wearing glasses and a blue blazer, and I'll pass it back to Blaise.
Thank you, Cynthia. And her co-presenter is Rosa Montalvo Pacheco. Rosa, I hope I said that correctly. And thank you so much for being here. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. That was a great pronunciation. My name is Rosa Montalvo Pacheco. I'm the Immigrant Community Liaison here on Long Island for the Office for New Americans. Brief description, I am a Hispanic woman in my mid-30s. My pronouns are she, her. I'm wearing a red jacket. It's very cold here in the office, and I am so glad to be here with you. So now I'm going to pass it to Cynthia for the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rosa. I'm going to share screen. And wonderful. To start today, maybe some of you are familiar with our office, and maybe for some of you, this is an introduction to the New York State Office for New Americans, which is housed within the New York Department of State. And I'm also going to share, at ONA, the Office for New Americans, we have the Ramirez June Initiative, which focuses on building capacity and support for new Americans with developmental disabilities. And just sharing a little bit that just really excited to strengthen connections with independent living centers across the state. Office for New Americans also has a statewide network. I personally have been to the Independent Living Center in Troy. And then I also met Blaise at the DREAM Symposium for Disability Employment Awareness Month last year. So just really excited to have this connection and build this connection. So now I want to just do a brief activity to get to know you. For this, if you just want to use the hand raise function, just as if you're raising your hand to learn a little bit more about you. So not to unmute during this, but just to raise your hand to share if this connects with you. And also welcome you to use the Q&A feature. So we have raise your hand if you have experience assisting new Americans, also referring to new Americans as immigrants, newcomers to the country. So raise your hand if you have any experience with that community, supporting that community. Oh, I see a lot of hands raised. Awesome. I know it's the lowering the hand feature is also a little tricky, but for this one, you can keep your hand raised or raise your hand if you have experience assisting new Americans or immigrants with disabilities. Seeing some hand raises. Hand raises are going up. That's great to hear that you have this experience. We'd love to learn more to see about 11 hands raised for that. And then I'll ask, do you identify as a new American or immigrant yourself? Right. So this one, see about 2 hands raised. And then lastly, do you speak a language other than English? Seeing the hands raised go up to about 7. Awesome. So thanks for sharing about yourself, and great to hear that people have experience assisting new Americans with disabilities, and we can talk more about our office services and how we can partner. So now I'll share about the Office for New Americans. We are the first Office for New Americans in the nation. There's now about 20 or 21 Office for New Americans in different states, but we are the first, founded in 2012, and we're the nation's first statutorily created immigrant service office, meaning that we're created by statute or law. And then ONA, or the Office for New Americans, assists all new Americans with accessing and navigating a variety of free supports and services through our statewide network. So I personally am based in our Albany office. We also have an office in New York City, and we have staff like Rosa is based on Long Island, but then we also have a statewide network of services that are provided within community-based organizations, or CBOs. And Rosa is going to share a little later about our services. So who are new Americans? This term may be new for some of you, but we basically use the term new Americans interchangeably with immigrants. Really refers to anyone who's new to the country, someone who's born outside the US who lives in the US. So new Americans include people who are immigrants, people who have come to the US as refugees, people who have been granted asylum or are applying for asylum. New Americans include undocumented individuals, and ONA services also assist undocumented individuals and families. The new Americans are all newcomers who live in the US. And many new Americans have mixed status families, meaning that different family members have different immigration statuses. This is pretty common for family members to have, not all the same immigration status. And in mixed status families, the majority of the children, or about 90%, are US-born citizens. So in a mixed status family, maybe one parent has their green card, meaning they're a lawful permanent resident, or maybe a family member is undocumented, but the children are US-born citizens, or the children have a different immigration status. But just what's important to keep in mind that in a mixed status family, even if children are US-born citizens or have, more access to disability services like through their school, if the parents are undocumented or maybe came to the US and were really fleeing really difficult circumstances, it's going to affect how they interact with services or their knowledge of services that are available. And especially for the undocumented community, there's a lot of fear to reach out especially to government officials, because there's that ever-present fear of deportation and family separation. In New York State, about 1 in 4 New Yorkers are new Americans. So on the slides, I just have a picture with the outline of New York and a cartoon with 4 people. So that's 1 in 4 New Yorkers. In New York State, per our census, we have about 19.45 million total people, and of that, 4.4 million are new Americans, meaning they're born outside of the U.S. and live in the U.S. Many new Americans are in the city, about 3 million, but we also have new Americans all around New York State, including people in your community, your neighbors, your families, your friends, your state of new Americans. Now I have a slide on what is immigration status and why is it important. You may have heard terms like refugee or green card or undocumented. I feel like you hear those, like in the news, TV shows, even songs sometimes. There's different terms describing new Americans, but it's important to understand immigration status because that is set by the federal government and can really affect a lot of things for someone, especially for someone with a disability. So immigration status determines whether someone can enter the U.S., United States, how long they can remain in the U.S., and it affects someone's authorization to work in the U.S. and their eligibility to access public benefits like Medicaid and supplemental security income. So your immigration status, let's say someone came here as a refugee, meaning they got permission to come to the U.S. before they came, and then someone who comes as a refugee is fleeing, persecution or other really awful circumstances. Someone who comes here as a refugee, their immigration status, they have access to Medicaid and benefits like supplemental security income if they meet that other eligibility criteria. And those benefits are really helpful and life-sustaining for a lot of people, especially people with disabilities. However, someone who is undocumented, meaning that they're not authorized by the federal government, they have much less access to benefits. Sometimes people who are undocumented can access some state benefits, but overall they have less access and face really a lot of barriers. So someone who's undocumented with a developmental disability, it's really difficult. There are ways, there are some services, but just noting that undocumented community with disabilities and with developmental disabilities really face a lot of barriers. What we recommend is referring new Americans to a trusted, free, or low-cost immigration attorney who can assist new Americans to understand what pathways they can take to obtain an immigration status. So immigration attorneys can help someone, apply for an immigration status. For instance, maybe someone's currently undocumented, so they don't have an immigration status, but maybe they are eligible for asylum, so they could apply for asylum. And then if they're granted asylum, then they have access to a lot of benefits and services and work authorization. However, just keeping in mind that immigration proceedings are very complicated, so you definitely want that legal support, but it's also very time consuming or lengthy. It's a lengthy process rather. It could take half a year to years to adjust your immigration status, and some people may never be eligible for a status that they want. So our guidance is typically to refer new Americans in need to trusted, free, or low-cost immigration attorneys, while also connecting them with any disability services they can currently access. So for instance, if someone is a new American with disabilities who's in need of disability services, it's great to make that connection with legal support, but not being like, oh, connect with legal support, then come back, because that could be years to never. And, people in need of services need them as soon as possible. And through the ONA network, Rosa's going to share more how we have a network of free legal support provided by immigration attorneys. So it definitely helps to be a resource for your network as well. But, you know, if you're referring to someone outside of our network, just the guidance to have referrals that are free or low cost and also trusted, because new Americans can be very vulnerable to scams. So people who say, oh, I'm going to give you a green card if you give me $5,000 or something like that. And a lot of people who, you know, are low income and new Americans fall prey to those type of scams. So that's why it's really important to have resources and referrals that are trusted. Then a little bit about language access. So I shared about how 1 in 4 New Yorkers are new Americans, and of the new Americans in New York State, of New Yorkers, 13% of New Yorkers, or 2.5 million, self-report having limited English proficiency. And limited English proficiency is a really, you know, technical term. It's from the census. Maybe it's definitely not something you might use every day, but what limited English proficiency, or LEP, means is that someone has difficulty reading, writing, or speaking English, and they're self-reporting that. And it's important to keep in mind how many New Yorkers have limited English proficiency, because people with LEP may need language access services, so services to support them to communicate effectively with others. And in New York State, we have a language access law, which was codified in 2022. Before that, we had an executive order, but now we have a language access law. And New York State is the second state in the country to have a language access law. The first state in the country to have a language access law was Hawaii in 2006, fun fact. So this language access law requires that all state agencies that interact with the public must provide interpretation services in any language with respect to the provision of the agency's services or benefits. So providing that language access services, and these are for executive state agencies. And then the language access law also calls for state agencies must translate vital agency documents into the top 12 most commonly spoken non-English languages among New Yorkers based on census data. So I'm going to share in the chat later when I'm not screen sharing, just that we have, or Rosa, if you're able to share, we have a link to the OLA website, which is the Office of Language Access, because with the law, we also have a new state Office of Language Access called OLA, and they have a video in American Sign Language about their office and the law, which we'll share a link for. And then if you are new to creating a language access plan, maybe even if your agency's not under this language access law, just more information about creating a language access plan, we have a link on this slide about how to create language access plans, and we recommend the website lep.gov, and that link is on the slide, so it has some more information. So now we're going to do our second interactive activity to test your knowledge about what are the top non-English languages in New York State. So these top languages are designated by the census data, and I'm going to ask you to put in the chat if you want to unmute and call it out. That's fine too, but let's see if you know what are the top 12 non-English languages. Okay, I see in the chat Spanish, that's correct, that's the first one, and then also Chinese. So raise hand, feel free to unmute and call it out. I see Bengali in the Q&A, that is also in the top 12.
Hey, Alex, would you be able to help me? Sorry, this is Blaze speaking. Would you be able to help me with the allowing people to unmute who have their hands raised there, please?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think Mary Should be able to unmute Mari.
Okay, I'm just going to acknowledge some of the other guesses in the Q&A. We got French, yes, that's in the top 12. Haitian Creole is also in the top 12. Italian, also in the top 12. And Urdu, also in the top 12. So German is not in the top 12, but, you know, definitely spoken. We have Mandarin, which is one of the Chinese languages, so yes. Okay, we got Yiddish, that's also in the top 12. We have Russian, Arabic. Okay, we're just missing one. You guys are really good. We're just missing one language that's in the top 12. So let's see. Anyone has it? You guys got 11 out of 12. I'll just do like 30 seconds. Language starts with a P. The letter P. Oh, Polish, we got it. Actually, Laura got that. Yes. Laura and Alyssa, great job, everyone. Awesome. But yeah, so these are the top 12 languages in New York State currently under our language access law determined by census data. That's got them Spanish as number 1, Chinese, which includes Mandarin and Cantonese. There's also other Chinese languages. Russian, number 3, Yiddish, Bengali, Korean, Haitian Creole, Italian, Arabic, Polish, French, and Urdu. Those are the top 12. That was really good. Probably some of the best trivia answers in terms of time. You guys did awesome. And then I'll just acknowledge, you know, some people added other languages. So American Sign Language, you know, is also recognized by the Office of Language Access. And as you well know, you know, also its own language. And then other languages that, you know, maybe they're not in the top 12, but they're definitely spoken. For instance, Karen, which is spoken by people from Burma or Myanmar, a lot of other languages in New York State, I believe around 800. So it's the language access law also lets state agencies evaluate, you know, these are the top 12 for census, but what are other languages in your community? And I'm sure in your own communities, there are a lot more outside of these top 12. So now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Rosa, to share more about the Office for New Americans. And I think I saw, Rosa, you also wanted to answer one of the questions in the Q&A. So I'll just pass it to you.
Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here, so thank you for this opportunity. I am going to go over the ONA program areas. On the PowerPoint, it is an image showing all the programs that we have available. As Cynthia mentioned, ONA is the first office of its kind, and the programs that ONA offer are to timely issues. So we have citizenship and civic engagement. We have developmental disability services, English language learning, immigration legal services, mental health support, workforce development. ONA's programming has grown significantly over the past few years, always in direct response to the needs of the New Americans community that we serve, as well as the changes on immigration policies and at the federal level. Under COVID-19 pandemic, ONA expanded its services to include workforce training programs such as New Americans Can Code and the New York State Professional Pathways for High-Skilled Immigrants program. If we can go to the next slide. Okay, so on Long Island, we have ONA resources that are fulfilling the needs of all these new Americans. Many of our programs are through a network of nonprofit organizations. And on Long Island, we have Carecen with locations in Hempstead, which cover Nassau County, and in Brentwood, which covers Suffolk County. The ONA programs at Carecen that we have, they do have these opportunity centers where they do citizenship classes. They help you to prepare for your naturalization. They also have ONA opportunity centers or for non-English speakers or where English is your second language. We also have the Golden Door support program, which we will talk a little bit more in the next slides. We have professional pathways, ONA legal counsel. All these programs, again, are through one of our biggest grantee here on the island, Caresen. We also have a program called with New York Immigration Coalition, which is the DOJ or Department of Justice training. And this is offered for nonprofit organizations so they can get certification and they are able to complete immigration documents or assess an immigrant accord. There can be many advantages of getting this certification. If we go to the next slides, please. Okay, on the ONA Opportunity Centers, we have all over New York. And as I said, in these opportunity centers, they do citizenship prep classes, immigration application support, immigration law consultations, community workshops, workforce referrals. In the slide, there is a map of New York showing all the locations of the regional opportunity centers. And again, on Long Island, we have Caresen, Corry, Nassau County, and Suffolk County. All these centers have an immigration attorney. So when they do open clinics, you can bring your case and they can provide you expert advice based on your specific case. If we go to the next slide, please. Okay. And the ONA Opportunity Centers is for English for speakers of other languages, or ESOL. Each Opportunity Center provides language instruction for immigrants as well as workforce development programming. They do resume building. They help you with interview techniques. They also allow you to know what is needed for you to fulfill your goals, which kind of employment opportunities, job fairs. They also will match you with if there's employment opportunities or if there's apprenticeship programs. The whole goal of this is to allow individuals to grow and provide workforce support. One of the programs that we like to promote is called CELED, which I will be talking in the next slide. So if you can please, okay. So CELED is a free language access program, and it allows you to use any device. I know many immigrants that they are working 3 jobs or they are single parents and they do not have the time to go to a classroom. So this provides an opportunity for you to participate in a 3-minute lesson. And once you finish, you can get certificates from any of these courses. We have math skill, financial aid, English as a second language, citizenship, and many other programs available. And again, it works on any device. It can be used on a smartphone or no internet. And you will have all these services available. So if we can go back to Golden Door, perfect. So Golden Door is one of my favorite programs. I am originally from Colombia, and we understand that in many of our cultures, we do not believe in mental health. So this program offers mental health support groups, and they are culturally appropriate. They allow you to connect with cases that will feel very similar to yours, and maybe you will open up to are more acceptable to mental health providers or guidance. So this Golden Door program, again, we have grantees on each region of New York, and here on Long Island is with Caresen. They do meetings that are, again, culturally appropriate. So if we go to the next one. professional pathways. It is important to know that sometimes when you arrive to the country, you already come with skills. Sometimes I have come across doctors, I have come across carpenters, plumbers, that they already have years of experience in their country, but they are not fulfilling their career because of the resources. So the professional pathways allows them to know how to get their certification here, how to get their credits evaluated. It connects these high-skilled immigrant job seekers with local ONA job coaches. So not just allowing them to know what are the steps to get their credits evaluated, but also helping them to build their resume, to get that training or certification that is necessary to obtain an electrician license or anything like that. And again, this is recently new. It happens with COVID-19, that they created this program, and we have agencies across the state. Central New York will be Interfaith Works, Brooklyn, Queens, we have Upperly Global, and we have other services. In 2021, 199 clients were served by this program. And the more we show and the more we explore and we allow the community to know, I know that this program will be very beneficial for everyone. So if we go to the next slide, it's just showing one of the examples. This is from Upperly Global, and it shows a picture of Claudia. Claudia is a project manager from Venezuela. She has years of experience in the field and worked with US startup companies before. When she met her own job coach in July 2022, Claudia was working as a freelancer. Claudia and the job coach work on improving her resume and best practice for job search and interview practices. In a short time, Claudia got an interview request for a project manager role in her field and was offered a full-time contract-based role working on a project with Con Edison. So this is just one of the examples of what an amazing network, what sharing the information does. I know that there are many people out there that lack this knowledge, so it is important for us to share the good news. And now we're gonna enter to one of my favorite programs, which is the Ramirez June Initiative. So I will leave you with Cynthia. Hope you have a nice day.
Thanks, Rosa. Cynthia speaking again. And before I launch into the Ramirez June Initiative, to share, we love your questions, so definitely share any questions that come up in the Q&A, and then we'll have time for some questions as when we wrap our presentation. So now I'll share about the Ramirez June Initiative. And this initiative is a first of its kind in the nation that focuses on expanding access for new Americans with developmental disabilities, and also new Americans with other disabilities, members of other disability communities. So on this slide are pictures of two families. On the left-hand side is a picture of the Ramirez family, which includes Humberto Ramirez, who is an individual with cerebral palsy. He's wearing a blue shirt. He's a wheelchair user, and in the picture, he's surrounded by some family members, about 4 kids, 1 preteen, and I believe his uncle is standing behind him, and they're outside an apartment building, and everyone's pretty much smiling. And then on the right-hand side of the slide is a picture from another family, the family of June Loom, and it's a picture of her son when he was about 4 years old, and June Loom's son was born in New York, and he's on the autism spectrum. And June faced a lot of barriers getting support for her son, and she really, really had to advocate, as I'm sure many attendees are familiar with, just the need to advocate to get the support and services, the opportunities that will help you to thrive. So both of these families overcame a lot of barriers. The Ramirez family are from Oaxaca, Mexico, and they represent, both families kind of represent those two largest language groups that we spoke about, which the first two for non-English languages are Spanish speakers and speakers of Chinese languages. So the Ramirez family speaks Spanish, they also speak English, and Humberto uses some assistive technology as well to communicate. Also, the Ramirez family are part of the Trique community, so they speak the Trique language, which is a language indigenous to Mexico. So that's something when we think of language access, and we're thinking of these most commonly spoken non-English languages. There's also some languages that are rarer, that are indigenous languages, even languages indigenous to the United States for indigenous communities, that people who speak these indigenous languages may face more pronounced language access barriers. So wanted to keep that in mind. And then for June, June is from Malaysia and speaks Cantonese, which is one of the many Chinese languages. So these family initiatives named after, inspired by both the Office for New Americans and our partner on the Ramirez June Initiative, the Council on Developmental Disabilities, had personal connections with these two families. So it's named after them, inspired by them, and also by, countless other New American families who had to overcome barriers to access the services and supports that they need. So what does the Ramirez June Initiative do? The Ramirez June Initiative builds capacity to support New Americans and increase their access to services through activities like building and strengthening cross-system partnerships, because no one agency can do this work alone. We need each other, we need to collaborate, and we're stronger when we work together. And also just the different knowledge between disability communities, disability systems, and then the world of immigration services, and then the more technical aspects of the immigration process, which I think can be pretty complicated. All these systems are complicated, so it's really important that sharing knowledge and collaboration, we really welcome that. And we also offer through the Ramirez June Initiative technical assistance. So when different people supporting New Americans or New American families themselves, and they reach out, as we're able to provide that technical assistance, making referrals to partners, or sometimes caseworkers have reached out. Maybe there's a complicated case with immigration status and there's different barriers. We've been able to assist in that way. We also engage immigrant communities as well as service providers through workshops like today, which is virtual. Also do in-person workshops throughout the state. I personally have gone to Plattsburgh and Utica and Binghamton, the Capital Region, Hudson Valley, Long Island, what else am I missing? New York City, in person for workshops. And then I'm just thinking I have done virtual, but I need to go in person to Western New York, Buffalo, Rochester to engage there. And then we're so lucky to have Rosa as well on Long Island, who's doing a lot of workshops and a lot of support for the New American community on Long Island. So for Long Island Independent Living Centers, we'd especially love to make those connections to increase referrals. Other activities that the Ramirez June Initiative does is create and distribute multilingual resources. We have a resource book that helps in the early identification of disabilities for children 1st through 5 years old, and it's available right now in 10 different languages. We have an order form for that, and we welcome you or anyone to order that book, and we mail it out for free. We also collect data about the barriers New Americans face, and we share our findings and recommendations with key stakeholders to inform systemic change and just raise awareness for the barriers and promising practices. And I'll share a little bit more about some resources that are available through the initiative. In terms of our developmental disability services, the Ramirez June Initiative is a capacity building initiative, but it's not in my role leading the Ramirez June Initiative. I'm not a direct service provider, but we have really seen the need for enhanced support for New Americans to navigate complex systems and access to developmental disability services and mental health services that they need. Because, with the Ramirez family and June Lum, had shared how it's taken about 6 years to access certain developmental disability services for her son. And she's definitely not alone. I've heard from parents where it's taken 8 years to access services, their child. I've heard from adults who are advocating for themselves. I personally assisted a case where it took an individual 4 years to access the developmental disability services that they needed. So there's a lot of different barriers that make it more complicated, and we see that direct support to help bridge gaps is so needed. So we launched a pilot program in Brooklyn, New York, which is led by the Chinese American Planning Council, and it's called the ONA Bilingual Coordinator Program through the Ramirez June Initiative. And it was launched in February 2023 and is going until August of 2025. We're hoping to expand this program to more regions in the state. So basically, this program is assisting new American families, people with disabilities who are trying to access services, and just helping them to navigate the process. It doesn't duplicate the service, but it helps someone, for different services, you often need a diagnosis of a disability or certain health condition to be determined eligible. So this program helps people, all new Americans, but especially new Americans in the Chinese American community, because it's led by the Chinese American Planning Council. It helps new Americans to get diagnoses of disabilities or conditions, helps them to get through that process. And then once they're getting services, if they need help advocating, or if they're all set, then the case is closed. So this is the program that we thought was needed and having good success. So hoping to sustain this program and expand it to other parts of the state where that enhanced support is needed, because a lot of our services, even just healthcare in general, it's really difficult to navigate. So that having that support, especially if you're new to the country, is so vital. And this program, if you are based in New York City, they did create a resource guide, currently a PDF. It's not online just yet, but they have a PDF of different disability service providers in the city who speak Chinese languages or are part of the Chinese American community. So it's a good template if you're not in the city, but if you are in the city in the 5 boroughs, it has some resources for that community. So then just have some pictures on a slide from outreach that we did in Utica, New York, at an ONA center, which is called the Center, and they have a lot of great programs. So in the picture, it has me presenting with a colleague, and for this presentation, there's about 30 or 40 new American attendees. And I love this event because it was just so diverse, and there were so many different languages spoken by the attendees. So during the presentation, we provided interpretation into multiple languages. So different people sat at different tables and they had an interpreter present. For instance, we had people who spoke Pashto from Afghanistan, people who spoke Somali, people who spoke Burmese and Karen, and Spanish speakers. And then we brought in presenters, from, sharing about Office for New Americans, but also presenters from the Early Intervention Program and from the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, and from the Division of Human Rights to share about disability rights, which is so vital. And we've done a lot of presentations with these state agencies, and some of the feedback I've gotten from attendees who are new Americans saying, now I know that people with disabilities have rights. People with disabilities protected by different laws, and New York State's human rights law that protects people with disabilities. The language is person, it doesn't say citizen. The law also applies to new Americans. That's just an example of some outreach that we've done. And then also just sharing a slide that has some pictures of the different language versions of Voyage, which is the illustrated resource book to help children 0 to 5. This is some of our work on the early identification of disabilities, so families can get help earlier, because new Americans in general face barriers and delays to get a diagnosis of their condition, be connected to the right treatment, the right services. So this is work that we've done to help children, families with young children, get help, support earlier. So we have Voyage, this book, in Ukrainian, Arabic, and Dari. And then also in, oops, my slides are just taking, also in Spanish, simplified Chinese, Russian, Bengali, Korean, Haitian Creole, and showing it in Ukrainian, Arabic, Pashto, and Dari. And each copy of Voyage also has content in English, so it can also be an English language learning tool because all the content is in English and a second language like Spanish. And then we have a Voyage order form. So on the slide, there's a QR code. There's also a link, and we'll also drop that link in the chat. I'm just going to wrap up sharing, we have some resources on our website, the Office for New Americans website, the Ramirez June Initiative tab, and we have a resource guide that we created called Accessing Services for New Americans with Developmental Disabilities. This resource guide goes over different New York State services like the Early Intervention Program, Access VR for job support and training, different services so that service providers, whether in the disability field, to learn about more programs like the trade program that has technology-related assistance that's free or low cost, or for people who are working in the immigration field to better understand disability resources to help New American families. Also on our website, we have a final report for the ONA Ramirez June Initiative initial 5-year grant with the Council of Developmental Disabilities that highlights some of the top barriers for New Americans, as well as recommendations to address these barriers. And this is the final report for our initial grant, but the Ramirez June Initiative is continuing beyond our initial grant funding and hope to continue and grow and expand to address these challenges and impact systemic change. I'll share also in our slides, we have the New Americans Hotline, which will also drop in the chat. This is the best way to connect with Office for New American Services. They can refer you to our services across the state, and they can also answer some questions about if there's like updates regarding certain immigration policies. All calls are confidential and anonymous, and the assistance is available in 200+ languages. So that number is 1-800-566-7636. One more time, that's 1-800-566-7636, and we'll put that link in the chat. And then on our slides, we just have our own social media links for you to connect with us and follow us as we promote different resources and programs and different holidays to celebrate New Americans, like Welcoming Week, and Hispanic Heritage Month is right around the corner, as is Disability Employment Awareness Month, NYAIL, next month. And then we have our last slide has a lot of different links and resources for more information about New Americans. So I'll end it on our slide that has a QR code for our survey and the survey link, and that is also one of the many links we'll drop in the chat now. And now we'll open it up. Thanks so much for listening and learning more about our office, New Americans in New York State. And we'd love to hear from you now, learn from you, and answer some of your questions.
We have about 10 minutes. This is Blaze speaking, so feel free to either put your questions in the Q&A box, or if you want to ask them out loud, raise your hand and Alex will unmute you in the order your virtual hand is raised.
Yeah, I've unmuted the participant with their hand up, but they just need to unmute themselves.
And I missed the hand that went up. So whoever raised their hand, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. In the meantime, is there anything in the Q&A box that can be answered so we're not sitting here in silence?
It looks like the hand went back down, Blaze.
Okay.
There's a question from Mandy about does NYAIL or ONA have a recommended translation agency?
I can answer that. NYAIL, I don't think we do. We usually go through ADG, the Association Development Group, whenever we need documents translated. I think that's right, Alex?
I know our Open Doors has had to translate materials before.
This is Suzanne de Beaumont. So yes, we do use ADG to translate printed materials, but we also have a call-in line. So if we get someone on the phone who is speaking a language other than English, we can call the line and it connects with a call to it, and they will translate whatever language the individual is speaking.
Jackie has a question. Are there any plans to bring resources to the northern region of the state? We're up by the Canadian border and the map didn't show any offices up this way. Thank you.
Yes, that's a great question. So in the North Country, we have an immigrant resource navigator that is based in Plattsburgh, New York. So that's one of our grantees. And then we also have an immigrant community liaison based in Watertown, New York. So I know the North Country is really vast, so that might be some distance from you, but I hope that those grantees can be, and that ONA staff can be a resource. Our ONA staff, ONA immigrant community liaison, Jason, who's based in Watertown, does travel throughout the North Country as well to share resources so we can make a connection with him.
Dickie has a comment. What is the ONA contact in New York City if there is one, or should we call the hotline you provided?
So in New York City, we don't have an ONA immigrant community liaison like Jason or Rosa who are ONA staff, but we have many ONA grantees in the city. So I would recommend calling the hotline to connect with your local ONA program.
I think those are all the questions, Blaze, at the moment.
All right, we do have, because the computer clock does not lie, we have 6 minutes in case anyone wants to ask any questions, and as you are thinking of them. One bit of housekeeping that I forgot to mention at the top of the webinar, but I'll do it here, is there is a survey. It should pop up in your browser at the end of the webinar. If not, I will include it in the follow-up email with the materials when I send that out later this week. And that email will have the slides along with the YouTube recording of the webinar, which has the ASL, the American Sign Language, and captions.
Christopher had a question. Do you have any services for deaf, deafblind, or hard of hearing individuals in New York State?
Thank you. So our ONA programs aren't specific to the hard of hearing or deafblind communities, but that people in different disability communities could access our existing ONA programs. In terms of the communities, resources that I know of, it might not be in your region, but in Western New York, there is Deaf Access Services. And I know that they serve different new Americans in the deaf community and have kind of that expertise. But I think that more resources are needed to support that community.
Looks like we have a hand raised, so I'm gonna allow you to talk, Dickie. You just gotta unmute yourself. There you go.
Yes, yes, thank you. I think this might be a question for Rosa. So we have several experience here in New York City, people applying for asylum, and the wait list is amazingly tiring. It's years and years of waiting. So do these folks have any public benefit, how do you call it? Can they apply for any income while they're waiting or pending asylum applicants? I don't know if this is a legal questions, but since it's a New American organization, so do you have any comments or suggestions?
Hi, Cynthia, do you want to answer that question?
Sure. So I'm going to share in the chat a chart, and my apologies, I'm not sure how the chart was created by a different organization, so I'm not sure about the accessibility of it. But this public benefits chart created by Empire Justice Center shares about different immigration statuses and situations like applicants for asylum, and has the different benefits that people can access according to their status. I do know that more capacity is needed to support new Americans, but anyone who is not connected with the ONA network, I would recommend our hotline as a resource to connect with other programs that can assist them in navigating any public benefits and services that they're eligible for.
Thank you for sharing that. I think this is helpful. And you also mentioned one point that people can also, you also collect data, the barrier challenges faced by the immigrants, right? How do they reach you for that voice? Is that the hotline also?
That's a great question. So just like today, we have a satisfaction survey where people share feedback. So we get some data from that, but we've also done focus groups with service providers and with new American communities to learn more about different barriers. But also, if people want to reach out and share things with us, we welcome that. I put my email in the chat, and then can be shared afterwards as well. And also, when we did, just for instance, a focus group with Spanish-speaking caregivers of children and youth with disabilities in the Hudson Valley, we partnered with a community-based organization who knew and had the trust of this group of parents. So often we'll partner with trusted community-based organizations, just like we do to offer our services. So if there's a group where you think that's, we're open to collaborate if there's a group where you want to do a focus group to learn more.
Right.
So that we can learn more.
Mm-hmm. And who do you partnership with in New York City agencies? Can you name some so that we get some idea? Like you mentioned, Staten Island has it, not Staten Island, Long Island Independent Living Centers. You have some, referrals received through them. But do you have any particular partners in New York City's agencies that we might be familiar of?
Definitely. So I mentioned the Chinese American Planning Council in Brooklyn, New York, that has the bilingual coordinator program. Chinese American Planning Council in Brooklyn and also Queens also have other ONA programs. So right now I'm looking at our website and it lists the different programs. So I'm looking at just a program for opportunity centers that have the English language learning support. So in New York City, we have Catholic Charities Community Services in the Bronx, and we also partner with other Catholic charities locations across the state. We also partner in Kings County, where Brooklyn is, Haitian Americans United for Progress. Also in Brooklyn, Arab American Association of New York. In New York, we partner for this specific program with the International Rescue Committee, also with Chinatown Manpower, and Korean Community Services of Metropolitan New York as some examples, but definitely more. Yep.
Please forgive me for ripping off the Band-Aid. We are at time, and because of ASL and captioning time constraints, we do need to wrap it up right here. Thank you all very much, and I will be in touch later in the week. And Cynthia and Rosa, thank you so much for this great presentation, and be on the lookout for more information about our October webinar here in the coming weeks. So with that, thank you, be well, have a great day, and we'll be in touch.